We're talking about blasphemy, and this is take 2 because I usually do quite informal videos, and this certainly wasn't planned to be one. It's got like a very short script, all professional like, but I would like to talk about blasphemy today, and I'm going to jump straight into it. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I hope you'll stick around to hear me say my piece. So earlier this week, I had posted a tweet that was simply, Allah can go fuck himself. And there are 2 specific reasons why. They're linked to 2 different things, and there are reasons why I posted that tweet. The first one was that was the phrase that started the controversy between Ali Dawah and Zara Kay. And the second thing is that it's blasphemous, and we went to a protest protesting the imprisonment, torture, and just the general inhumanity shown towards Soheil Arabi, who is in prison in Iran due to a Facebook post defaming the Prophet Muhammad. And that is why I posted that, with no context. And the response from that was a little mixed. It certainly went a little viral, and a lot of people liked it. And there were Muslims, ex-Muslims, and non-Muslims who didn't like it. And I would like to explain my position and why I posted that. I would like to clarify that I am not the biggest advocate for blasphemy. I don't personally find it useful in terms of talking to people. I don't personally engage in it. I don't think that it doesn't relieve anything for me. But I would like to fight for my right to blaspheme, because I feel as though that is important. Remember when Rahaf al-Qunun was still escaping her country before she came to Canada, and I made a video talking about thought police from 1984. This is the same thing, but on a smaller level. Rahaf al-Qunun was being hunted down because she had left Islam. Soheil Arabi is in prison for 7 years so far, on and off death row, going through torture. You know, currently he's on a hunger strike. His mother has been captured as well, because she's been trying to get him out of prison, simply because of a Facebook post. Simply because of a Facebook post. And whereas many people might say, oh, this is a hate crime, oh, this is that, whatever you want to call it, 7 years in prison facing torture and being on and off death row is certainly way too big a punishment for the crime that we have here, which is simply speaking against a dead public figure, revered public figure. It's simply that. And I've heard the arguments, okay? Some of the arguments are, oh, well, he should have known better, and, you know, he should have known better, he's in a country of fanatics, he should have seen this coming. I've heard that argument, and I understand that argument. However, that doesn't erase the fact that this is a huge injustice. That doesn't erase that. Perhaps it was also an anonymous post that was traced back to him, so I don't think he foresaw it happening like that. But even if that is the case, and maybe he should have been a bit more careful, it doesn't erase the injustice that he is going through. And it's very important to make a big enough stink about it for Iran to take this seriously. The second argument that I've heard is that this is only going to irritate Muslims, this is only going to, you know, make the lives of ex-Muslims in other countries worse. No, it isn't. It simply is not. Because why should we make concessions for people who are openly oppressing and persecuting us? Why should we make concessions for them? When I posted my tweet, Allah can go fuck himself, that was one of the biggest arguments, and it came from an ex-Muslim. And I would like to say that just because your friends and your family accept you because you do not blaspheme in front of them, that does not negate the fact that being an ex-Muslim, just being an ex-Muslim, is blasphemy enough. We're seeing it with, I think his name is Mustafa Ali. We're seeing it with that, okay? His mother wants to send him to Syria to die simply because he's left Islam. Leaving Islam is enough of a blasphemy. It's blaspheming because you're not meant to do it. And for you to say that blasphemy is somehow illegitimate and disallowed and we shouldn't do it because it will anger the Muslims. Muslims are the ones that are persecuting us. Not all of them, I would like to clarify, because I know that's going to be an argument. I understand that it's not all of them. But the violent minority, I don't even know if it's a violent minority, to be honest, because it's all in, the Indian subcontinent and in Northern Africa and the Middle East. These things are happening, and in parts of Far Eastern Asia as well, in Indonesia, Malaysia. There's a general feeling of, if you leave Islam or if you blaspheme, you deserve punishment. And not just like, oh, you shouldn't have said that. Real physical, emotional punishment, being a social exile, being outcast from your family, being, abused, severely beaten, or, tortured or killed. And that is I feel like, is the general feeling in those countries. And it's unacceptable. And I don't know why we should make concessions for people like that. And to just reiterate the importance of free thought. Free thinking. Being able to think freely without without people spying on you and making sure that you believe the things that you're supposed to believe. Being able to think freely is the basis of human rights. If you cannot think freely, you cannot protest any unjust ideas. If you cannot speak freely, that immediately takes away your right to protest unjust ideas. If we did not have free speech in Western countries like the UK or the US, we would not be so easily allowed to protest things and make new laws and create new ideas. We would not be able to do that because we'd be, herded towards a single idea, and going against that idea would be a terrible thing. In countries like Iran, like Saudi Arabia, and those are I feel like the most outspoken about this blasphemy thing, and possibly Pakistan, in countries like that where you cannot speak against the authority that is in power freely, like you can in the UK and in the US, for all our troubles, it is really, really difficult for people to just live freely. If you're gay, you can't come out as gay. If you're an ex-Muslim, you can't come out as ex-Muslim. If you're trans, you can't do that. You just can't be an authentic human being and speak freely, speak your mind. And I would like to clarify that I am not politically literate in many things. I'm not politically literate on many different issues, but free speech and free thought is something that I truly stand for. I feel as though that if you have radical ideas, I would rather you say them out loud than keep them inside and create a subculture of people. I would rather you say them out loud, have them debated in public, bring your people, bring our people, let's talk about it. At least that will lead to something good. And I can see that going somewhere good. When you hide those feelings, especially if there are toxic feelings about a specific race or a specific people or a specific thing, capitalism, whatever. When you hide those feelings and you only share them with like-minded people, you create a subculture, and that in and of itself becomes really, really toxic. And that's why I feel as though, because of our language policing recently, and here in the West, we've seen, really extreme groups come out of it, especially with the white supremacy groups. because they are no longer allowed to just speak their mind, and they're deplatformed so quickly. And yes, I understand that their ideas are probably not just. Their ideas are probably not just, but I would rather have them spoken. I would rather have them spoken than hidden, and then them creating really, really, a really demonic thing out of it. So that's my position on free thought and why I think it's important. I feel as though in the spirit of being enlightened and progressive, we need to keep talking to people that we don't necessarily agree with. We need to build those bridges of communication, if not understanding, if not compromise, just communication. Just understand where people are coming from, listen to their points, have, arguments against them. That is the only way that we can progress, in my opinion. It is ridiculous that we hold Islamic figures and Islamic deities, or deity rather, to such a high standard, when religions can so easily and so freely publish literature and, spread speeches and, prepare da'is and people who preach in the middle of the street, who send such hateful messages, like such hateful messages. Apostates can be killed. Gays should be stoned to death or thrown from buildings. Adulterers should be stoned to death. Thieves should have their hands cut off. Specific people will burn in hell forever. The graphicness of that hellfire, how hot it will be, that your skin will grow back, and that is completely intentional, Like it can, and in Muslim circles, you'll have them talking about Jews and how Jews are the enemies of Allah. They'll curse people, they'll say phrases like la'natullahu alayh and things like that. And that's fine. And we allow them to do that. We allow them to spread their publications. We allow them to keep speaking. And I'm not saying that any of that should be banned. I think that is fine. I think that in the spirit of free speech, that should be allowed. That should not be, minimized. The anti-Semitism, people need to get a hold on. The racism, people need to get a hold on. But the rest of it, those are ideas, and ideas do not have rights, but they should be allowed to be voiced, and I'm fine with that. But when we blaspheme, when we draw cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, when we say, call him a pedophile, which is what he is. He married a 6-year-old. When we call him a warmonger, which is what he is. He led at least 3 major battles in his life. When we call him a conqueror, a colonialist, because that is what he did. He conquered Mecca, right? When we call him these things, and we are given so much backlash, right? And we are called racists and xenophobes and Islamophobes, which I don't even consider Islamophobia a real term. When we are called that, despite the fact that Muslims have such hate-filled publications, the Quran has advocacy for wife beating, especially if you don't contextualize it with the hadith. The hadith don't make it better, by the way, but especially when you don't contextualize it, it advocates wife beating. It allows concubines, married concubines, married to other people, concubines. It allows, it says horrible things that, women have half the witness of a man. You go to the hadith, Muhammad's calling women, saying that women have half the intelligence or are deficient in intelligence. He's saying that women will, most of the dwellers of hell will be women. And we allow those publications to exist, but we can't criticize Allah or call him a dick or something like that. And I think that that's extremely hypocritical, and that should not exist. If you can say that I will burn in hell forever simply for being an apostate and for turning my back on my religion, I am allowed to call your God whatever I want. If you are allowed, regularly to remind me that you will be watching me burn from paradise, if you're allowed to do that, why am I not allowed to call your prophet a pedophile, which is what he is? Which is what he is. Why am I not allowed to do that? I think that it's extremely, selfish to want something for yourself and not extend that same thing to the rest of us. Just because you think that your religion is right does not protect it. It's an idea. It is an idea, and it is open to criticism. Muhammad was a public figure, claimed to be a messenger of God. We're allowed to ridicule that because he's a public figure who made a lot of bold claims and said a lot of outrageous things. We're allowed to mock that. The guy claimed to split the moon. We're not allowed to mock that. He claimed to ride Burak into heaven. Like some people say winged donkey, but really it's just a donkey that can extend its feet for as far as it can see. We're not allowed to mock that? I'm sorry, what? It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous story, okay? It is a ridiculous story, and we're allowed to mock that. We should be allowed to mock that because it makes no sense. It has no realistic bearing on anything. And you're saying that we can't mock that? He married a 6-year-old and fucked her, raped her when she was 9. We're not allowed to criticize that? We're not allowed to call him a pedophile? Or a manipulator at the very least? He married a child. He took one of the Jewish tribes of Medina and killed all of the men and the boys who had reached puberty by checking their pubic regions to see if they were men. And of that tribe, he married Sophia bint Huyay after he had killed her husband, her brother, and her father, and consummated the marriage not very long after that. And we're not allowed to say anything about that? Would you, if someone had done that to a group of Muslims, how long would it take you? How long would it take you to ridicule and mock and curse that person? How long would it take you? Not even a second. It would not take a second. Let's be real. Okay? We should be allowed to criticize public figures. And I would like to piggyback off something that Armin said at Speaker's Corner. When we ridicule the Prophet Muhammad or Allah or an Islamic figure, it is not meant to offend Muslims, even if it does. It is not meant to. That is not the point of the ridicule. The point of the ridicule is to express ridicule. Okay? If your mother is a public figure that is doing some shady shit, ridiculing her is not meant to directly attack you. Ridiculing her is to ridicule her and her whatever she's doing. And I think that's okay. And it should be allowed. But for some reason, people want me and other ex-Muslims to make concessions for people who are openly oppressing us and telling us that either we are going to burn in hell or that we should be dead. And when Sharia is enforced, we will be dead. You want us to make concessions for people like that? No. Why should we? It is pathetic to me that you would assume that we should do that. And that is something that we should do. It's pathetic. It's pathetic to me. And while, again, I will repeat, I am not big on blasphemy. I don't find it personally very useful for myself or for what I'm trying to do, but I will fight for my right for it. And you should too. And something that I brought up in the last video where I vlogged about Soheil Arabi and the protest that we did for him, something that I would like to highlight is that if we do not support each other, there is no one in the world that is going to support us. Okay? When there is outrage in the world for people putting Muslims in concentration camps, we speak out for them. Muslims speak out for them. There's a community there to speak out for that injustice. When Christians are hunted down in the Middle East, you know, when they are oppressed in the Middle East, they have a community backing them, and we also support them. Whatever injustice is going on in the world, to human beings, we are the first to respond to that. But nobody gives a fuck about social rejects like us. Okay? Nobody gives a fuck about us, and that is why we have to stand up for ourselves, and we have to advocate that other people stand for us as well. We need, you know, Muslims standing for us. We need Christians standing for us. We need everyone standing for free speech in countries like this, where they will imprison you and torture you and possibly even kill you simply for speaking your mind. Simply for speaking your mind. When Malaysia announced that it would hunt down atheists, where was the world? Where was the world? If Malaysia had announced that they were going to hunt down Christians, what kind of outrage would we have seen? We need advocacy. You don't even need to be an atheist to be an atheist rights advocate, a free speech right advocate. We need people to petition for free speech in these fanatical countries. And remember that when the civil rights movement started and Rosa Parks sat on that bus, people didn't say, you shouldn't have sat there. You shouldn't have disturbed the peace. People stood up and they did something about it. Yes, maybe it was silly of him to do that in a fanatical country, but that does not negate the fact that what he is going through now is completely unjust, and we need to fight against that. In the description, I'm going to link a petition for Soheil Arabi, and I would really like to implore you that you keep that hashtag alive. I believe it's Free Soheil. Please keep it alive. Don't forget about him. Don't let that man die in prison. Because he's literally dying for his right to speak freely. In the last part of this video, I would like to reiterate that I like to operate within the barriers of kindness, that when we deal with people, we should be kind to them. But ideas have no rights, and ideas as cruel as one that permits slavery, calls for the death of apostates from it, calls for, the death of gays and LGBTQ people, subjugates women. Ideas like this, we have to be harsh with them. We can't do this soft spoken, oh no, it's okay, those aren't real edicts of Islam, when really they are. When really they are. And it has to be addressed harshly. That of course, on a human level, I will always operate within the bounds of kindness. And I will never forget that kindness was the thing that brought me out of the darkness that I was in. And the dark light that I saw people. So I implore you to keep using that hashtag. Do some blasphemy of your own. It should not be something that, as punishable as this. It should not. It should not be. And it's truly disgusting that the world is so silent on this huge breach of human rights. The most basic of them. Thank you for hearing me. Please do check out the petition in the description below and make sure you sign. I don't know what it will do, just to be clear, but please do sign it. Maybe it will do something, maybe it won't. And please keep Soheil's memory alive. Please keep Soheil alive. Thank you for listening. You don't have to like this video, but please do share it if you agree or disagree. Please do share it. Leave your comments below. You don't have to like me. You don't have to subscribe to my content. I am simply saying that this breach of human rights, 7 years, it's been going on for way, way too long. And yes, it is only one person, but imagine how many unnamed people have died under this concept of you offend me, therefore I will kill and or torture you. Imagine. And imagine how many people are living in fear simply because they cannot speak or think the way that they want to think. Make your own videos, make your own content, tweet constantly, write to your ambassadors. I don't know how these things are done. Like I said, I'm not politically literate, but if there's anything that I can get behind, it's the right to speak freely. Thank you for watching this video. If you've stuck around for this long, I hope that you'll understand and hear my message. If this came across as just very angry and messy, I'm sorry. But thank you, and I will see you in the next video. On a completely separate note, if you really enjoy this hair, say goodbye to it, because I'm dyeing it a different color. But I will see you in the next video. Thank you, and goodbye.